Hi, welcome to this comparison of the Arturia and the UAD Moog filters. I've got a few Moog filters in the studio. I've got a Sub 37, Voyager and a Minimoog. So I thought, well, do these compare in any way with a real life Moog? And also, you know, how do they compare to each other on different scenarios? So just quickly running through them. I'm not going to spend time on the specs. You can read the specs anyway, but they're both got a sequencer. This is much more analog style sequencer on this. You've got this sort of digital sequencer on the UAD. They've both got a drive input. The Arturia has only a low pass, whereas the UAD is a low pass, a band pass, a high pass. And it's got this sort of spacey thing that you can do on the Voyager as well, whereby you can adjust the width of the band and change the resonance on two peaks and stuff like this, so you can get sort of weird swirly phasey effects, which is quite nice. The UAD's got 2 LFOs, the Arturia's got 1 LFO. The envelope on the UAD can be sent to 4 separate places, or you can send it to 4 at the same time by holding shift. The Arturia's only got 3 destinations, but they're sort of comparable. The UAD feels more flexible than the Arturia, actually, just for the fact really that, well, it's got the 2 LFOs and the sequencer section is easier to use, I suppose. It's easier to look at. But yeah, I'm not going to go into the specs of them really. One of the things that really drives me mad about some of the UAD stuff, or most of the UAD stuff, is it looks fine on a small screen with a low resolution, but that's quite small. Like when you're trying to do anything fine in the mix, if you're just trying to tweak it from, you know, 300 hertz to 500 hertz, 320 to 500, you know, you've got limited movement. Whereas on this, on all these Arturias now, you've got this great window resize. So this goes to that big, which is nice. And on a 23-inch monitor, on a 1080, that just more than fills the screen. So I think that's great. Another thing to know on the playing around with the knobs on this is that if you hold control, you get really fine control. Look how far I'm having to move that mouse up to get that fine control. So if you want to tune something in particular, you can see the cutoff frequency down the left-hand corner. If you want to tune something in particular, you can do that on the Arturia, which you can't really do that well on the UAD. So putting these back to a sort of similar size makes you see how small this feels, doesn't it? Let's put it a little bit larger, 120. There you go. But after seeing this in large scale, this really does feel tiny. So just so you have set this up, I have the ESM running through the mini filter. Let's just turn that on there. And also through the UAD. And for the Moog, what I've done is I've set up the ESM that runs output through separate output and comes back in to another input, so that we're definitely playing the same oscillator for each of the sounds, or for each of the filters. And the reason being, if I just quickly play you a Minimoog, just a sawtooth wave, I'll just pull up the EQ for that, actually, channel EQ, and we'll pull up the main channel EQ. So let's just get rid of these for a second. So this is a Minimoog sawtooth. It's nice, it's fizzy, it's got movement, it feels alive. And then listening to the ESM, and let's not forget, this is just the bog standard thing that comes with Logic. Let's turn the filter off. Compare that with... So the Minimoog does sound, I mean, obviously it depends on how you're monitoring this. Some people might be listening thinking it sounds exactly the same, but believe me, it really doesn't. That sounds so much richer and nicer. So, using the ESM throughout. If you've watched my Minimoog versus SoftSynth Shootout, you'll sort of know the format I'm going through here, but I've put the Arturia here in yellow, UAD in purple, and the Minimoog itself is in blue. I've created sound files just to make things slicker as I'm talking through it, and also what it means is that I can really get as precise as I can on changes with LFOs and stuff like this, which I'll demonstrate throughout. So a lot of the stuff I've got on this has been automated, and I make sure the automations sort of are equal to try and get things as close as possible. But first, I'll just go through some filter sweeps. Now, as I was talking about earlier, you can't quite get the frequencies exact on the XL. You can on the mini filter, and on the Minimoog, obviously, it's really easy. So they start off slightly different points, but you get a sort of overall feel for what they sound like. So here's the Minimoog. And if you listen to the end of that, that little sort of fizziness that you get, it's beautiful. That's pure sort of, you know, that's electricity running through cables, isn't it? Let's have a listen to that end bit of that again. They're the sort of little touches you get in tracks that if you do stuff strictly just on soft synths, you don't get all those little sort of nice sounds that play underneath things and really do bring things to life. So that was the Arturia. Playing either of the plugins, you get stepping if you're using a control surface, for example. I was using the Sub 37, but on these, what I've tried to do, as I said earlier, I've used automation, so it should be as smooth as possible. And if I just show you that quickly, if I just put the UAD on, for example, bring it over, where is it? Here it is, and just play something similar. You're getting that bit of stepping, which isn't very nice, but you can get around it using automation. Another thing to note is just the self-resonance. If I put the Minimoog on, that was me just going to the other side of the studio and playing with the Minimoog, sticking the resonance or the emphasis on full, and then taking the oscillator out, so you're just listening to the filter itself on self-resonance. The UAD can do self-resonance. Let's just show you that. Watch your ears. I'll turn the resonance up. That'll do to save anyone's headphones or speakers blowing. The Arturia can't do that. Just show you, if we go to the Arturia, no self-resonance, and this is so I'll stick the oscillator back in. So it doesn't replicate a Moog in that sense, but whether that's of any real interest to a lot of you, you know, putting something into self-resonance is taking things a little bit out of control, but, you know, worth noting. So let's have a listen to some long sweeps here. At the start of that, you'll hear a little bit of hissing and sort of a little squeak in there, and that's because I've just taken the resonance just slightly below self-resonation. So, resonation? Is that a word? I don't know. Anyway, I've brought it just slower than that, so you're still getting possibly a little bit of the resonance in there. But again, these are the lovely little things that make analog equipment sound great. Nice. So UAD. Still sounds nice. Sounds like a Moog to me. Sounds nice again, that. It sounds like it's got a little bit of a sort of tube overdrive or something going on in that, doesn't it? But to all intents and purposes, they sound extremely similar, I think. Okay, let's have a look at the distortion or the drive circuits on these. On the Minimoog, I'm bringing in through the external audio input, and just by increasing the external input, it overdrives really easily. The drive on the UAD is on the input side of things, and it's very similar to the drive on Minimoogs, actually, well, the way it works, or the signal flow. And on the Arturia, it's just here, just before the filter. So let's have a listen to the Minimoog. looking at this oscilloscope here, it sort of almost goes to a square. And again, I love those little pings at the end. Don't get anything like that with soft synths and plugins. So it's moving towards a square wave, the same as the Moog is, but doesn't sound like. Hasn't got the weight to it, has it? And the UAD. Again, it's all right. It's pretty good, but it's not this. One word of warning with the UAD, you really have to control the gain, because the gain, once you start adding the drive, goes through the roof. So I've had to automate it so I'm not getting huge signals coming out, because they do get massive. Okay, next up, I thought I'd look at a pad. So I've just pulled up the Simple Polysynth from Logic. It's this horrible looking little thing here, quite foul. So I'm just playing with the cutoff frequency here with a sort of highish resonance. That was quite nice. It's a little bit harsh, I think. But it's not bad. It does sound Moogish. It's got that sort of sing-along sort of feel to it. Again, it's nice. It's sort of what you expect, isn't it? Now let's have a listen to the Minimoog, see if it's just looking at the actual waveform here, it looks completely different to the others. You can see that I don't know whether this makes a difference in the sound. It shouldn't really, you shouldn't really look at the waveforms, I suppose, but that's very straight. That's a bit in and out, and this is very in and out, isn't it? So let's have a look at this. So again, just have a listen to the UAD. And the Arturia. And the Minimoog again. It sounds like when I've done that on the Minimoog, I've turned the cutoff a little bit higher than I have on the others, actually. It's difficult to control them to get them all the same. But I think they all sound reasonable there, to be honest. Quite happy with them. I prefer the UAD between the UAD and the Arturia, though. Next up, I thought let's have a listen to a couple of beats. Green up here is the unfiltered beat. It's just one that comes with Logic. So there you can hear, I've just been increasing the drive, and you can tell that on the UAD, I've really had to, it was getting louder and louder, and I have to pull it down, but quite nice. Arturia. Again, apologies for the differences in volume there. This has got a sort of softer sound, the Arturia, I think, than the UAD. So bringing in a bit of LFO in those two. Again, the Arturia sounds a little bit softer, but not in a bad way. UAD sounds punchier, but the Arturia's got this sort of really nice sort of, I don't know, it sounds like a sort of a very 70s vibe. It's a 70s beat, but it's got that sort of, I don't know, that nice fuzziness to it. So I've added the LFO and I've increased the resonance on that, and on the UAD I've also used that spacing that you can do. I'm just trying to make it a bit mad. How mad can you get with them? UAD can get a bit madder, but they're still both sounding nice. And you can hear there two LFOs doing different things. And there the envelope followers pulling it in at the start of each beat. All very nice. So the envelope follower there, you can hear it as the beat comes in. And it's, as I said at the start of this, it's a lot more effective, this. It's got a lot more sensitivity to it. So pulling the cutoff down and having a resonance quite high up. This is the general feel you get for the two of them. The UAD sounds a bit punchier, as I said earlier, and the Arturia is sort of, what did you say, fatter, or I don't know, fuzzier. So different characters, none's better than the other. So you can't make that sort of crackle with the UAD like you can with the Arturia, and you don't get the same punch with the Arturia as you do with the UAD. So swings and roundabouts. So let's go to a more sort of modern-ish beat, modern beat, whatever that means. Just a different style of beat, really. So I brought in the Moog there. I've lost the file that I made for the Minimoog on this bit for the 70s drum, but there it is there. And between the three of those, I wouldn't say one's better than the other. They're all slightly different. I would say though with the Minimoog, I've had to take the Minimoog and I had to play the Minimoog or open the gate on the Minimoog by sending a signal out to the fuse box and creating an envelope with the Sherman filter bank that's then being processed through the CP251, is it? Through the Minimoog processor. So to do this, you're going through what, 3.5, 1.5, 300 plus another 600. So you're going through. Let's just calculate that again. So the Minimoog's 3,300. The fuse box is about 1,300. So that gets you to 4,600. The CP251 is about 350. So that's 4,950 plus the Sherman filter bank at £600. So you're getting, you're coming up to £6,000 for this. It's a lot of money. Sounds nice, like. I think that UAD effect is about 190, is it? I mean, you obviously get it a lot cheaper than that in various sales. And the Arturia mini filter was free. So once we start putting £6,000 versus £100, £190 versus nothing, and the Arturia now comes in a bundle with the SCM filter and the Matrix 12, so that's about £200, but, you know, in comparison, nothing. Just thinking about what you might use a filter for in a mix. You've tried drums, tried the pad, tried the synth line, so maybe a keyboard, maybe a piano. So this is the original sound I've put through. And that's just me playing a Korg SV1. So first up, let's hear the Arturia. I think that's gorgeous. That's, you know, playing with the LFO, tweaking the LFO up really high, gets into FM territory. I think that's lovely. It really picks up those sort of little crackles and stuff in the original. Go to the UAD. Again, beautiful. It sounds a little bit more precise with that LFO around here. Really nice. But again, there's not a lot between. There's not a lot between them. So they sound completely different to each other, but the feel's there, isn't it? Okay, let's have a listen to the Minimoog. The LFO is not going into the FM territory like it is on the plugins, but it's nice. But I think I prefer the plugins, to be honest, on this one. Again, nothing between them really. They've got different characters. UAD more precise, Arturia fuzzier, but in a nice way. So we've tried the synth line, we've tried pads. You know, let's have a look at something a bit tougher. So what I've got here is the ESM, so that horrible little nasty synth from Logic. And I'm making it nasty and distorting it. And this is the ESM itself. So clean and then some distortion. So that's what you could do with that if you haven't bought either of these. So here we go next. Let's try the UAD next. So brought in the distortion near the end, and there's a lot of resonance in the middle there. I hope you didn't hurt your ears. Let's have a listen to the Arturia. So you can hear the resonance at the end there. It's not really doing anything like the UAD did. And it sounds a bit quacky. That envelope follower doesn't sound snappy, does it? Wah, 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 wah. Sounds more wah-wah-ish than... Okay, and I've just, out of interest, because I'm trying those other two filters, I've got the Sound Toys Filter Freak, so I just thought, what's the difference between a Minimoog filter and another filter? This is a non-specific emulation, isn't it? So let's have a listen to that. So that was on its 24 dB, and the reason why I've brought that in as well is to see, well, if we're comparing these two to a Minimoog, and we think, oh, they don't sound exactly the same, do they sound the same compared to something that's not even meant to sound the same? And I think the answer is they sound a lot better, or a lot closer to the Minimoog than the Sound Toys do. Really like the Sound Toys, nothing against that, but it doesn't say it's emulating the Moog, and it's not emulating a Moog, but, you know, it's another 24 dB filter, so, and it's a way of just seeing if they do emulate a Moog or just a standard 24 dB. I love all that at the end, as I said before. Out of the three of those, or out of the four of those, I easily like the Moog the best. That sounds like a duck. That's nice, it's rich, it's nothing against that, sounds good. That sounds nice. And that just doesn't sound like the Moog. It sounds great, but it doesn't sound as good as the Moog. So the Arturia and the UAD both have a sequencer. Let's have a little mini play with the sequencer. I mean, you could do like I'm sure you could do like a few hours on just the sequencers alone. But this is just a single note held. So the same note I was using for the tests earlier on. So just a straight note coming through and being messed around with the filter. So he'll do the Arturia first and bring a little bit of messing around with the cutoff and the resonance, and then add a bit of slop in there. So you can hear it gets very sloppy and it's just sort of, you know, waves from one to the next. So I do the same with the UAD. This has also got a swing function on it, so I add that to this just because it can. It's a lot more precise. I'm not showing these off to the best of their abilities, really. But then I thought, how am I going to do this with the Minimoog? So again, going through the fuse box, using the Sherman as an envelope as well. So this time I'm using the Sherman filter bank, the fuse box, the CP251, the Moog, and the Murph as well. The Murph's given the little sort of sequencing on the bandwidths. And I think I might... Let's just have a listen. I might use the ring modulator as well. But, you know, and what I'm doing here is I'm demonstrating to get these little sequenced effect on outboard is starting to cost thousands upon thousands. And it's really quite difficult to do. You've got white, unless you've got it on Euro rack, I suppose, which is really great. You know, you've got it all nice and compact. In here, I've got it all over the studio. So it's like, it's a danger zone at the minute. And that's just me messing about. I'm not trying to emulate what this is doing, and this isn't trying to emulate what that is doing. This is just the general feel. So that's £6,000 worth of kit. Very nice. This is £190 plug-in. A completely different thing, I know. So in conclusion, UAD or Arturia, I think the UAD is the better, sounds better, which is what's most important, I think. It's more expensive than the Arturia. It's more precise. It's got more punch, but this does have, the Arturia does have a really nice sort of fuzzy quality to it that I really like. The GUI looks nicer on the UAD, but it's small. Give me bigger GUIs, please. So yeah, that was just a quick have a look at the two filters I've got. I just realised I had the both of them and thought, I wonder what they actually sound like compared to a Moog filter, and I'd say they're both pretty good actually. Hope that was of some use to someone somewhere. Cheers.